The boy finally cleared the tower defense game after 2.5 years. In that moment, he couldn't help but shout excitedly in his live stream. The audience never expected that someone could actually beat this game. It turned out to be a classic game notorious for its extreme difficulty. Empire Guardian. Today, 10 years after its release, the first person to beat it finally emerged. I've always told you all, no matter how hard a game is, it's meant to be conquered. The boy was a streamer known for tackling high-difficulty classic games. After his success, he received numerous gifts from fans. But more than these, what truly filled him with joy was the pride of clearing the game as a professional gamer. However, not everything was perfect. During his journey to beat the game, some viewers developed emotional bonds with the in-game characters. They hoped that during the final battle, all the characters could survive. But in the end, only the protagonist, Lucas, survived. Everyone else perished. The boy's goal, however, wasn't to ensure everyone's survival, but to finish the game. The final boss was the Sleepless Lake Princess, and defeating her brought the game to a conclusion. Lucas stood there still, in front of the enemy tower he had taken down, standing atop a mountain of fallen comrades and enemies. The boy didn't know why, but even though Lucas was just a game character, his silhouette seemed lonely. As the credits rolled, the boy's 2.5 years of dedication felt like it had a perfect ending. Yet, a wave of inexplicable melancholy swept over him. At that moment, he saw a comment on the screen. Shouldn't the developers give you some kind of award? This game, once notorious for its difficulty, was widely criticized. It even attracted a storm of angry complaints from players. But there's no need for an award, he thought. Just having this much fun with everyone here is enough. After all, the official website of the game had disappeared years ago, and there hadn't been a sequel in the past decade. Contacting the developers seemed impossible now. The most important thing was to keep engaging as fans. But just then, the director of Empire Guardian unexpectedly reached out to the boy. For a moment, the boy's eyes widened in disbelief. The announcement caused the live stream comments to explode. The self-proclaimed game director first thanked the boy profusely, but what he said next left the boy puzzled. For us, there's still hope. That's truly a blessing. You've proven your capability and worth. Please, come and help us. After a brief moment of reflection, the boy concluded this must be some kind of prank. He was about to kick the director out of the stream when a wave of intense dizziness struck him. He assumed he had passed out from playing the game for too long. Still, he trusted his viewers would call for help. As he collapsed, the credits for Empire Guardian finally came to an end. When he opened his eyes again, he found himself surrounded by magic. He scrambled to his feet, only to realize he was no longer in his familiar room. The boy had cleared the most difficult tower defense game in history, but he had been transported to an entirely unfamiliar world. He was curious about the voice he just heard. The next second, a massive boulder flew toward him. Still reeling from the shock, all he could do was duck and cover his head. After calming down, he began to analyze the situation. The air was thick with the smell of gunpowder, and war seemed to rage all around him. Just then, a soldier nearby fired a cannon. The boy, who had just started to regain his composure, froze in place again. A deafening explosion rang out nearby. Damn it, you guys are going too far. But what he saw next startled him even more. Countless well-armed soldiers stood before him, apparently defending against some unknown threat beyond the city walls. It dawned on him that this might not be some elaborate prank. Yet, he was still curious. What exactly is going on here? As he observed the soldiers bustling along the walls, he realized he might be in the middle of a war. At that moment, a soldier nearby noticed him. Running toward the boy, the soldier called out, "Your Highness! Your Highness! Are you all right?" The boy instinctively thought the enemy had breached the walls. He stumbled backward in fear at the sight of the sword-wielding soldier. But then, to his surprise, the soldier knelt down before him. "Please spare my life, Your Highness." The boy was curious. Why was the man in front of him suddenly acting like this? "Sir, could you please calm down first?" But before he could finish speaking, a powerful magic attack came flying straight at them. Fortunately, it didn't hit him directly. He wondered to himself, was that some kind of new bomb? He quickly realized that the area hit by the attack was now burning with green flames. "It's here. The raiders are coming up." The boy immediately looked in the direction of the voice. "Hold the line. You must stop them. Don't let them get up here." But in the next moment, a soldier standing at the edge of the wall was pierced through the body. It was the first time the boy had seen such a horrifying scene up close. And it wasn't over. More and more soldiers were falling in front of him. He couldn't help but wonder what was on the other side of the wall. His curiosity was soon satisfied, as a massive spider climbed up the wall and appeared before him. The next second, the spider let out a terrifying roar at the boy. The boy couldn't believe that the soldiers were fighting against such monsters. "The raiders are here. Stop it. Don't let it move." But against the spider, The soldiers stood no chance. The boy was paralyzed with fear, unable to move as the creature crawled closer and closer to him. Just as the spider's sharp claw was about to strike him, a blonde knight appeared in front of him, slaying the spider with a single swing of his sword. Your Highness, are you seriously trying to deny reality? That's such a clutch reaction, isn't it? But the boy was clearly still shaken by his recent brush with death. Your Highness, why are you in such a state? Are you injured somewhere? The boy thought the man in front of him looked somewhat familiar. Then it hit him he remembered the character who had accompanied him for 2.5 years in the game. Wait, are you Lucas? The moment the man heard this, his eyes filled with tears. Of course. Your Highness, you must have hit your head. But I'm so glad, because you finally called me by my name. After being your loyal knight for a lifetime, you never remembered me. But if the man before him was truly Lucas, then the world the boy now found himself in must be the world of Empire Guardian. The boy had been transported into the very game he had just completed. Yet, he felt no joy. After all, this game was about desperately fending off endless waves of monsters, the most difficult tower defense game in history. He couldn't understand why he was now inside the game world. Your Highness, please calm yourself. The enemies approaching us now are the Black Spider Legion. Though the front lines are on the verge of collapse, once night falls, the enemy will retreat. We have about 30 minutes until sunset. No matter what, Your Highness, you must hold out until then. The boy didn't understand why Lucas was protecting him, or why everyone kept calling him Your Highness. He was curious about who he had become. After what felt like an eternity, the sun finally set. The monsters retreated and the soldiers began clearing the battlefield. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the Black Spider Legion withdrew. Your Highness, would you like to rest now? But the boy stared silently at the scene beyond the wall. The ground was piled high with the corpses of black spiders. Yet he knew that tomorrow, those creatures would trample over their fallen comrades and surge toward them again. Lucas, what time is it now? Where are we? Today is the last day of February in the Imperial calendar, year 649. This is the forward base of the fortress city, Crossroad. Then tomorrow, it'll be March 1, 649. That date was one he had seen countless times in the game's tutorial over the past 2.5 years. This meant that the boy was none other than the Empire's third prince. Hardy Babul. That's right, Your Highness. Why do you keep saying such strange things? It turned out that the Empire's third prince was infamous for being a madman. Most of the forces stationed in the fortress city had been wiped out because of him. What was worse, Aish was destined to face the most tragic end in the tutorial. This game was known as the hardest tower defense game for a reason. It featured both the Hell difficulty level and the Ironman mode where saves could not be reloaded. The only person to have cleared Hell Ironman. Aish was confident he could conquer any challenge. But except for this tutorial's time and location, this scenario is absolutely unbeatable. The tutorial in the game is designed to ensure failure. The game's story began with Lucas narrowly escaping from the monster invasion. In this 3-year-long game, the Black Spider Legion wasn't meant to be hunted until late in the second year, facing such monsters at the very start. Even with his knowledge of all hidden wrecks from clearing the game, Ash couldn't think of a way to pass the tutorial. The spiders weren't just absurdly high level. There were over 1,000 of them. The only weapon at Aish's disposal was an SR-grade artifact, the ancient Mana cannon. Yet, the more desperate the situation became, the more Aish forced himself to stay calm. As a professional gamer, he knew there was always a solution, a way out of any scenario. What he needed to find was a slightly higher probability of survival, a slightly better strategy. Finally, Aish discovered the one chance to stay alive. The strongest player who had conquered Hell Ironman mode was now facing a tutorial that was seemingly impossible to beat. The enemies were not only at level 55, but there were also over 1,000 of them, and all he had was an SR Mana cannon. After careful thought, Ash identified his only chance to succeed. He immediately stepped outside to find Lucas. Go and gather my personal squad right now. You mean Your Highness's royal guard? You've never summoned them before. Why now? Less talking, more doing. Get them here immediately. I come up with a way to turn the tide. Soon, the group assembled in the war room. Aside from Lucas, Aish's royal guard had 3 other members. Aish was all too familiar with their faces. Lily, a fire mage with incredible firepower. Cain, a fearsome knight. And Demian, a bespectacled priest. Aish had already seen them perish countless times in the tutorial. He had witnessed their deaths over and over again. What's with him? Over there? Unlike the others, Demian was curled up in a corner, sobbing. Demian lost his teammates earlier today, so please forgive him. In the game tutorial, Demian was always in an abnormal state, often eyeing before he could contribute. From now on, I'll explain your roles in tomorrow's battle. Aish began outlining his unconventional plan. First, Lily, as the team's main firepower. You will act as the frontline tank and shield against the spiders. Your Highness, I'm a mage, you know. Next, Kane, our shield knight. You'll infiltrate the enemy's ranks and disrupt their formation. You'll be acting as the diversion. Lastly, Demian, our priest. You will serve as the team sniper from now on. As for Lucas, you'll command the remaining soldiers to hold the front line. Hearing Aisha's assignments, everyone fell silent. Damn it. You called it a battle plan? Your poor leadership has already put us in this dire situation. And now you're saying stuff like that? You're speaking to the Emperor's son, the supreme commander of this front line. Let me ask you again. Kane, are you going to defy my orders? To everyone else, Aish was still the same madman as always. But to clear the tutorial, he had to fight in ways that defied conventional logic. In their eyes, Aish's plan was reckless and bizarre. That's why Aish needed to make them follow him without question. Without hesitation, he suddenly plunged his sword into Lily. I trust that all of you have the ability to complete your tasks. Don't you agree? Everyone was stunned, frozen in place. In the eyes of the team, mages were crucial combat assets. So when I injured a mage like Lily before the battle even started, it was impossible for him to earn their trust. But then, Lily's body suddenly ignited with flames. For a moment, everyone was at a loss for what had just happened. It turned out that all tutorial characters had unique hidden rates that were often the opposite of their expected roles. Lily, you were cut by a blade when you were a child, weren't you? It was during that goblin raid on your village. After that event, you gained the trait Flame Skin. As long as you have enough mana, you can avoid all physical attacks. Am I right, Lily? The Empire's third prince was notorious as the worst commander in history. He not only assigned a powerful mage to act as a tank, but also ordered a heavily armored knight to infiltrate enemy lines stealthily. And now even a bespectacled priest was being forced into the role of a sniper. But Lily's flame skin trait meant she could become immune to physical attacks if her mana was sufficient. While this trait had been almost useless in the game, in this reality, it could be a critical advantage. If used creatively, it might just offer them a chance to survive. Lily, I'm sorry. I used such a crude method to prove my point earlier. Aish turned to Kane next. Kane, you were a petty thief as a child, weren't you? Born into a poor family with many mouths to feed. It must have been tough for you to climb the ranks and become a knight. Kane had no idea why Aish knew so much about his past. That's not important. What matters is what you can do in battle. Kane's trait was thief's survival instinct. As long as his health remained stable, he could instantly disappear from the sight of others. Basically, you can go invisible. You can hide from everyone's view if you want. So are you going to answer me? Or do you want me to prove it again? No. Nani. I can do it. I can. Finally, Aish turned his attention to Demian, the most critical piece in this battle plan. Demian, your eyesight is exceptional, isn't it? That's how you could see every detail of your friends dying on the battlefield. They were my friends from back home, from the same orphanage as me. And yet, in battle, he died saving me. Why did you bring us here? Your Highness? Why is this happening? For what grand purpose? Or do you think people like us with such lowly lives exist only to entertain those in power? Please give me back my friend. To you, he might have just been another nameless soldier. But to me, he was my best friend. I didn't refute him. He placed a hand on Demian's shoulder. Blame me, Demian. Hate me if you must. Your friend sacrificed his life to save you. Will you stand idly by and waste the chance he gave you? Just because you're stuck with a garbage commander like me? Are you going to let the hope your friend died for go to waste? You should fight back. Take revenge on me. Kill the spiders and survive. Then make me pay for what I've done. Demian, tell me, do you want to destroy the spiders? Do you want to kill the commander who cost you your friend? After a long silence, Demian gave a firm answer. To the others, this was outright insubordination. But Aish didn't care. I promise you this. As long as you make it out alive, no matter when it is, my life will be yours to take. Lucas tried to intervene, but Aish stopped him. If this battle fails, all of us will die anyway. But if we survive, I'll leave my life in his hands. This is a promise made with royal honor. So even if it's just for tomorrow, follow my orders. Aish understood one thing. When people lose hope for survival, hatred can become a powerful motivator. Even if Demian's hatred was directed at him, Aish was willing to stake his royal honor and his life to give them a fighting chance. I won't make excuses. It's my fatal error in judgment that led to this. Our forces are on the brink of annihilation. But if we follow my plan, we can drive out the spiders. Even though the chances are slim, we still have a glimmer of hope. So, just this once, will you believe in me and follow my lead? In that moment, despite their commander being the notorious third prince, the resolve in their eyes was unwavering. Soon, the next day arrived. The beast became active once again. The Spider Legion is here. The monsters are swarming in. Will this really work? Don't worry. Just follow my instructions. The strategy this time was simple. While the team members bought time, they needed to look at the Spider Queen, the one giving orders to the Legion, and use the Mana Cannon to blow her head off. After removing the safety mechanism, I should even forcibly boosted the cannon's magic output. Even if the target was the Queen, this plan was bound to succeed. The only problem was that the Queen's position was usually in a place invisible to the naked eye. Fortunately, I had a skill called map drawing. This ability allowed him to scan a certain area and display it as a minimap. When I first discovered this ability's potential, even he was shocked. Thankfully, it was proving to be invaluable now. However, I soon realized there was no marker for the boss on the map. This meant the Spider Queen was still far away. Meanwhile, Kane was already preparing to leave the fortress alone, though he didn't say it. He had no idea if he'd survive. Lily's task was to block the passage with her flame skin when the spiders reached the cannon's platform. Despite trembling with fear, she kept encouraging herself. I can do this. I have to do this. At the same time, Lucas was standing atop the fortress wall. Under his command, all the soldiers were in position. Everyone, hold the line. We must buy time until His Highness takes down the Queen. Seeing eyes on the cannon platform, Lucas assumed everything was ready. He immediately ordered the soldiers to open fire on the incoming beasts. In an instant, cannonballs and crossbow bolts rained down on the spider swarm. Lucas signaled to Aish that everything was proceeding smoothly, but Lucas didn't know that Aish's expression had turned grim. As the commander, he had to remain calm and keep morale steady. The tutorial's objective wasn't to defeat the boss, so the lack of a marker wasn't surprising. Even if this was the monster's main assault, there would definitely be reserve units guarding their rear. The Spider Queen wouldn't undoubtedly be there. Damien, the boss is over there. Can you see it? Ash pointed to a spot where not even a shadow of an enemy could be seen. I see it. It looks like a stationary cluster of spiders. The Queen must be among them. Can you identify her? Is the Queen the creature with the upper half of a human and the lower half of a spider? This battle was absurd in every sense, facing overwhelming odds and levels and numbers. A bespectacled healer acting as a long-range sniper, and a team relying on the slimmest hope of survival. Yet, for these people, it was their only chance. Rotate the cannon to southwest by south. Leave the precise angle to me and Damien. Want to recharge? You're clear to fire. Damien, it's on you. Aim for the Queen's head. Your Highness, I don't have the confidence. I've never done anything like this before. You suddenly want me to. Damien, it's okay even if you miss. I'll take full responsibility for everything. Even if you fail, even if everything falls apart, it doesn't matter. I'll shoulder it all. You only need to pull the trigger. That's all you need to do. This way you can avenge your friend, even if just a little. Hearing that he could avenge his friend, Damien pulled the trigger without hesitation. A surge of immense power erupted from the cannon's muzzle, soaring straight toward the distant plains. As a mushroom cloud slowly rose into the sky, a deafening roar reached everyone's ears. How is it? Did the shell hit its target? It did. We struck the monster's dead center. In an instant, countless veteran soldiers gathered around Damien. Even in such a dire situation, they spared no effort in praising him. It turns out Damien's ability is farsight, enabling him to see what must be seen. If he can see it, he can surely hit it. Originally, he was a character in the game who couldn't even equip weapons, but now he's showcasing his might on the battlefield. For a moment, Ash felt proud of his plan. However, he quickly realized something was wrong. The spider's attacks hadn't stopped. Logically, if the Queen was eliminated, the spiders should have retreated. Thinking this, Ash immediately grabbed his binoculars to assess the situation. The previous shell had indeed hit the Queen precisely, but the spiders shielding her had absorbed much of the damage. After being struck, the Queen let out an enraged roar, causing the entire swarm to charge toward the cannon. The scene shifted to the forest outside the fortress, where Kane had only one potion left. He could only hide behind a tree, praying not to be discovered by the spiders. After the Queen's order, the spiders all changed direction. This was now Kane's only chance to escape. Should he take it? Meanwhile, Damien had already fired a second shell. Once again they hit the Spider Queen accurately, but the spiders still showed no sign of stopping. This meant the Queen was still alive. In the game, the Spider Queen should have been defeated with 1 or 2 hits from the cannon. But this was the tutorial stage Queen, and Aish knew nothing about her capabilities. Moreover, without the suppressor, the cannon itself was heavily affected. Its usable shots would be far fewer than expected. Given the current situation, the Manhwa could only fire 3 more times at most. This meant they had to defeat the Queen with 3 shots, or face certain death. But now Damien was starting to suffer from the side effects on his far side. Ash didn't know if Damien could hold on until then. The Spider Queen, who could be taken down with one shot in the game, had now inured to shells unscathed, with the Mana cannon having only 3 shots left, and Damien's vision deteriorating. The only good news was that the central wall was still holding. But just then the Spider's siege units arrived, and something entirely new appeared, a scene never seen in the game. The Spiders began hurling their bodies at the wall, stop them at all costs, concentrate all fire on the siege Spiders. Even though every shell landed on the siege units, one eventually reached the wall, and with that, the wall collapsed. The siege Spider used its body to clear a path for its swarm. The Spider army surged in like a tidal wave. As a seasoned gamer, I should never seen such a siege tactic before. Everyone, grab your weapons. Let's head to the first floor and provide support. With Lucas's assistance, Ash quickly regained composure. Our mission is to keep firing at the Queen. We must eliminate her before they reach the cannon. That's all. With the Mana cannon reloaded, Damien fired the 3rd shot. Due to the side effects of his farsight, his eyes were now bloodshot. Although this shell also hit the Queen, she was still alive. Don't hesitate. Load the next shell immediately. Meanwhile, Lucas had reached the front lines of the battle. With his strength, he could easily handle these Spiders. Listen up, everyone. Protect the cannon at all costs. Defend the prince. Although Lucas's efforts delayed the Spiders from reaching the cannon, Ash knew this situation wouldn't last long. While similar situations often occurred in the game, now, every tick of the clock meant another life lost before his eyes. The cries of his comrades and the stench of blood in the air were relentlessly chipping away at their morale. And to make matters worse, the Mana cannon had malfunctioned. The soldiers were using their bodies to cool the cannon. Around Lucas, only a handful of soldiers remained. At this point, Ash couldn't think of any way to turn the tide. You damn monsters. I'm right here. Look at me. Ash quickly noticed Kane amidst the swarm of monsters. By now, Kane had finished his last health potion. Listen to me, all of you. Kane. Almost instantly, all the monsters charged toward Kane. The terrifying sight sent chills down his spine. That's right. You damn creatures. Come and chase me. Kane spotted a rock ahead. If he could just reach it, he could activate his special ability. Let's see if you can find me once I get there. Before finishing his sentence, Kane activated the survival rule of the petty thief. Wait. Kane. Your remaining stamina. But before he could trigger his ability, Kane was surrounded by spiders. Damn it. I knew I shouldn't have trusted you. And with that, Kane was brutally torn apart by the monsters. Even from the cannon platform, Ash could hear the horrifying sounds of tearing flesh. Because of Ash's poor command, a precious life was lost. Kane bought us some distance. No one is allowed to retreat a single step. A man who was an Imperial Knight, yet the most timid among them, used his unique ability, designed for escape, to abandon his chance at survival. When the monsters stormed the fortress, he came back. Listen to me, all of you. I am a knight of the Empire. Kane, with his life, he bought time for the soldiers to extend the defense line. Every soldier here, because of one word from Ash, had now lost their lives. Back when Ash played this game, he would often sacrifice allies as bait depending on the situation. Because that's how this damn game was designed. If you wanted to save someone, get a certain item, complete a side quest, or achieve some accomplishment, you had to trade some lives. At the time, Ash never questioned any of this. But now he understood the meaning of those choices. And he realized that every death was a tragedy. Damn monsters. I told you to stop. But the monsters didn't stop. Shouting alone wasn't going to stop them. Just then a sharp sword pierced through the body of a monster. Insolent creatures. How dare you approach Prince Kane? Your Highness, are you all right? Were you injured by the monsters just now? Seeing the staggering monsters, Ash came to a realization. The only way to stop the monsters was to eliminate them entirely, before everyone else fell. Completely annihilate them. Your Highness, the 4th shell is loaded, but the cannon can't take another shot. Damien, can you still fire it? I can. Your Highness. By now, blood was streaming down Damien's face from his eyes, yet he fired the shell without hesitation. Thanks to Damien's farsight, the shell flew straight toward the Queen. Countless spiders lunged toward it, sacrificing themselves to shield the Queen. Thankfully, the shell still struck the Queen directly on the head, but the damn Spider Queen was still alive. As her furious roar echoed to the cannon platform, the soldiers collapsed to the ground as if drained of all energy. It was clear that their efforts had no effect on the Queen. The cannon itself had reached its limit. Firing it again would result in a self-destruct. We're already out of options now. We might as well give up. Although Ash didn't want to admit it, the facts were undeniable. The cannon's barrel was nearly destroyed, and the defensive line had completely fallen. Even the gunners could no longer open their eyes. It seemed everything was over. All hope was gone. It's not over yet. Our last attack was effective. The queen's outer shell has completely fallen off. Aish hadn't expected that the scout was still holding their position under such circumstances. One more shell and it'll be over. But the scout didn't finish their sentence. The cannon platform was destroyed by an enemy attack. Seeing this, Lucas was driven to the brink of madness. As the platform collapsed, Aish knew it was all over. But in his daze, a figure appeared before him. When the platform crumbled, Lucas shielded Aish from the fallen rebel. The cannon's barrel was nearly destroyed, and the defensive line had completely fallen. Even the gunners could no longer open their eyes. Yet in such a dire situation, the scout had found a glimmer of hope. The Spider Queen's outer shell was gone, but the ensuing attack utterly destroyed the cannon platform. Just as everything seemed to spiral into despair, Lucas shielded Aish from the rubble behind him. Your Highness, are you unharmed? That's what I should be asking you. Your Highness, do you remember? It was nearly 20 years ago, but Aish didn't remember. After all, he was just a gamer inhabiting this body. When you first named me your guardian, you said to me, even though I may never become the emperor, I will surely become the most handsome man in this world. So, as my guardian, you must also become the most handsome knight. I was just a child back then, but your words left a deep impression on me. Even now I still remember them. So, Your Highness, I believe in you. Even after all this, you still believe in me? Always. But before he could finish, Lucas was buried under the rubble. With great effort, Aish managed to pull Lucas out. He knew clearly, Lucas was the true protagonist of this world. Lucas would bring salvation. So he couldn't let Lucas fall here. But for now Aish had to regain control of the battlefield. After searching, he found the soldiers and the Manga cannon. Though they were all unconscious, none of them had sustained fatal injuries. However, Aish couldn't understand why he was still alive. And where had all the spiders gone? Your Highness, I've been waiting for you. I stopped all those spiders for you. We haven't lost yet, right? Aish was about to approach, but Lily stopped him. I can't hold on much longer, but I can still temporarily block the entrance. The siege spiders will soon break through the walls. We don't have much time left. Please hurry. At least don't let us die in vain. Aish bit his lip to hold back his tears. Gunners, what are you waiting for? Load the final shell. But Your Highness, I've already told you. The cannon's durability has exceeded its limit. The moment we fire, it will explode. If we do nothing, we'll be pierced by the spider's claws anyway. Better to go out fighting. How are we supposed to aim? We can't even see. And there's no angle to hit the queen. The cannon's mount is completely destroyed. Lift the cannon by hand. We don't need to aim. All Damien needs to do is fire the shell. Quick, load the final shell. That's an order. Though Aish didn't fully understand the principles of farsight, he had no choice but to trust Damien now. Damien, this is our last chance. Just one more shot is all we need. Please, give it everything you've got. Your Highness, what's the point of all this? No matter what I do, nothing ever changes. Even if I fire one more shot, and even if we destroy that Spider Queen, what difference will it make? I'm not talking about just that. Even if we kill the Spider Queen, what can it change? Lily, the maid, shielded the survivors from the spiders, using her body as a wall of hope. But at this critical moment, Damien's resolve completely collapsed. He questioned the meaning of everything he had done. My friend is gone. No matter how much I avenge him, he won't come back. No matter how hard I fight, this world just keeps taking everything from me. I don't want to keep going anymore. I'm tired of living like this. I want to be with him. Damien, do you think this world is unfair? Even if we survive this crisis, do you still think living is unbearably painful? Don't be foolish. That's exactly how it's supposed to be. If this world had difficulty levels, it wouldn't outwardly be set to hell mode. It's filled with injustice and absurdity. Nothing ever goes the way we want. But that's the world we live in. Do you think everyone else doesn't know that? We all live in this desolate reality. But does that mean we should give up the fight? You want to throw everything away and leave gloriously? Look around you. We have to fight until the very last moment of our lives. I will keep fighting. I will keep thinking. I will struggle until the very end. If you really want to give up, then take this sword and end it yourself. But if you're too much of a coward to do that, then be my trigger. Stop searching for the friend you've lost. The only person who can drive you forward now is your master. Stop trying to assign extra meaning to your life. You are my cannon, my gun, my trigger. That is enough. At that moment, I shall awaken a passive skill. Indomitable commander. This is an order. My trigger. Take hold of that damn cannon and blow that monster to pieces. Your Highness, following your command. The final shell has been loaded, but the barrel won't cool down. Then don't bother cooling it. I'll lift it myself. The barrel is scorching hot. If you touch it, it won't just be a simple burn. Compared to dying and going to hell, I'd rather live and bear the burns. Damien, are you ready? Your Highness, I can't see ahead. It's fine. I can't feel my hands anymore. It's fine. I'll lift the cannon for you. All you have to do is pull the trigger. Hurry. Help His Highness. And so the survivors lifted this burning symbol of hope. But at that moment, a siege spiders broke through the wall. Damien, pull that damn trigger for me. With everyone's combined effort, the final hope was fired. The shell flew straight toward the distant target. By now the spiders had completely surrounded the remaining survivors. But all they could do was pray, because accomplishing this was nothing short of impossible. Under the collapsed platform, a shell was fired at an unseen enemy. Yet the shell struck the Spider Queen with pinpoint accuracy. It ignored elevation. It ignored distance. It ignored the countless monsters obstructing the line of sight. As if reenacting a predetermined outcome, the shell ended squarely on the Spider Queen's forehead, cleanly severing her head. Through everyone's combined efforts, the final shell hit its mark on the Queen's head. In her dying moments, Aisha called his first fan. Bro, you're amazing. How did you clear the game? His mind now was a blur, unable to remember how he had answered back then. The next moment, a sharp pain snapped Aisha back to reality. Your Highness, you should rest for a while. Although Damien has treated you with magic, your burns are severe, and it will take a long time to fully recover. You've been asleep for 3 days and 3 nights. I thought you'd never wake up. I can't believe we survived. It's all thanks to you. Once the Queen was eliminated, the spider army froze in place. Your Highness, we did it. We won. The reinforcements arrived and recovered our fallen soldiers' bodies. And they've also dealt with the immobilized spiders. We're nearly done cleaning up. Your injuries are serious, though. When we return to Crossroad, you'll need to visit the temple for further healing. But even after full recovery, you'll likely have scars. Scars mean nothing compared to a life spared. Lily, what about you? How are your injuries? When I exhausted my mana, a spider slashed my back. It might have damaged my spinal nerves, so I can't move my lower body. But don't worry about me, Your Highness. I'm just happy to be alive. There are 5 surviving gunners, as well as Lucas, Damien, and the 2 of us. That's it. Before the final battle, there were still hundreds of us. I felt deep regret. If I hadn't treated this as just another game tutorial, if I had thought more carefully about a better strategy, maybe more people could have survived. Your Highness, don't blame yourself. You're not a god. In that situation, it was impossible to save everyone. You've already done your best. But I was the one who led the troops here in the first place. No one could have predicted the monsters would launch such a massive attack after decades of silence. Even so, you lead us to victory. So please don't carry all this guilt. At that moment, Lucas burst through the door. Your Highness, it's great to see you awake. Are you feeling any discomfort? I'll fetch Damien right away. What about you? You were badly injured too. Are you sure you should be walking around like this? You know me. I've always been a sturdy guy. During this time, I also compiled a list of the fallen. Although some bodies haven't been recovered, we've accounted for all we could find. Take me to see it. Both Lily and Lucas immediately tried to stop him. They died following my orders. I have to go. Lucas, help me. And so Lucas carried Aish to the wall's edge. There they encountered someone unexpected. Neither of them had expected to find Damien standing there lost in thought. Your Highness, you're awake. How's your eyesight? I'm fine now. Since yesterday, I've been able to see gradually. My vision is almost back to normal. Do you know, Damien treated all the wounded here? That means he used healing magic while blind. The boy who used to give up at the slightest setback now carried a maturity far beyond his years. After experiencing this life-and-death battle, during Aisha's 3 days of unconsciousness, Damien treated all the injured without being able to see. Aisha knew he had endured great suffering during this fight. Damien, this operation succeeded thanks to you. If you wish, I can give you wealth beyond measure, and I promise you'll never have to set foot on a battlefield again. You were a mercenary at first, but from now on you're free. Your Highness, didn't you once say, I am your gun? Besides, I want to know the source of those monsters, and why they created them. I don't want anyone else to die before me like my friend did. So please allow me to stay by your side. Then from now on you'll follow me, because at the place where we honor the dead we'll need a priest. Looking back now, I realized there might not have been a better strategy at the time. What's done is done, and there's no point in dwelling on what-ifs. Once a choice is made, the consequences must be accepted. What I could do now was bear the burden and continue forward. After the simple funeral, all the bodies were recovered and transported. Every year, tens of thousands die in Crossroad. Their lives are worth less than the cost of a funeral. To the west of Crossroad, there's an open field. I plan to bury everyone there and honor them. I'll designate the last day of February every year as a day to commemorate their sacrifices. Aish wasn't doing this just for these people. It was also for the countless characters he had carelessly sacrificed in his hundreds of playthroughs of the game without any guilt. This was his way of atonement as a player and classic gaming enthusiast. Lucas, I won't fail a second time. I absolutely won't fail again. It's getting late. We should head back. Back to our base at Crossroad. With the support of the reinforcements, the group began their journey home. After spending 3 days in the carriage, Aish couldn't hold it in anymore. Lucas, how much longer until we reach Crossroad? Lucas's response over the past 3 days hadn't changed. Your Highness, we're almost there. Please hold on a little longer. Too bored to wait. Aish began examining his system panel. Although the character's stats weren't arable, the good news was that once he reached level 5 he could choose his own class. Every class in the game was available to him. But Aish noticed a class he had never seen before. Curious, he wondered what unique traits it might offer. In the last battle, he had obtained a passive skill, Indomitable Commander. This skill granted all allies within a 10-meter radius immunity to mental status effects. While effective, it had little use early on, since such magic only appeared later in the game. As he debated whether to choose the commander class, Your Highness, we can see Crossroad now. Aish looked out the window. A massive fortress loomed before him. In this city, tens of thousands die every year. Their lives are worth less than the cost of a single funeral. This is the fortress at the southern edge of the world, Crossroad. It was built to block the monsters emerging from the Black Lake, once the Empire's largest fortress. It has seen its garrisons diminished as monster activity declined. The Imperial forces were redeployed elsewhere, their ranks filled by mercenaries of varying skill. In recent years, the area had developed rapidly. No longer called a fortress, it was now known as the Monster Frontline. For mercenaries who valued money above all, this was a road to certain death, a city built upon graves. This is humanity's last defense. Crossroad. Compared to what I should see in the game, this fortress was far larger and surprisingly prosperous for its size. Regardless, Aish was now the lord of this city. Yet as its lord, his return was met with no celebration. Instead, the townspeople pointed and whispered about him. To them, Aish was the lord who had abandoned his soldiers and fled back alone. But Aish understood that mere words wouldn't change their opinions. He had prepared for this long before returning. The carriage was loaded with mana stones from the black spiders. Given the spiders' high level, even those unfamiliar with their worth could tell these were extremely valuable. Thanks to the mana stones, you won't have to worry about financial problems for a while. Additionally, maintaining a good relationship with the citizens is essential for the smooth progression of the game. Luckily, Aish knew how to increase citizen favorability, fill their empty hearts with shiny gold coins. Before long, the carriage arrived at the Crossroad Lord's manor. Lucas, you've worked hard along the way. With Lucas's help, Aish stepped off the carriage, only to be stunned by the sight of the luxurious estate before him. It was a stark contrast to his previous residence. Just then, a figure pushed open the gate and ran out. It's such a relief that you've returned safely, Lord Aish. Aish was curious about who this person was. It turned out to be Abe, the NPC in charge of managing the city and the game. All administrative matters in Crossroad went through him. Your humble servant has been worried sick about you, especially if any scars might mar your noble figure. I've prepared a warm bath and dinner for you. Please take the time to rest today. The lavish decorations left Aish momentarily dazed. Lucas, make sure the soldiers get some rest, and you should rest well too. Don't overthink it for now. But I must protect you, Your Highness. Not today. Get a good rest and start protecting me tomorrow. Following Aide's lead, Aish arrived at the bathish. Since his arrival in this world, Aish had barely rested. He decided to take this opportunity to relax. By the way, you're quite impressive, Lord Aish. Or not. Should I call you Classic Gamer? To Aish's shock, the sly NPC Aide immediately recognized him as a transmigrator. You're truly remarkable, Classic Gamer. Time seemed to freeze as Aish paused his actions. I didn't expect you to clear the tutorial in such a way. Completely unexpected. How do you know about this? Are you saying you're? Yes, I'm the director of Empire Guardian. The one who sent you that message. Before I could finish, Aish's fist connected with his face. After all, it was because of that message that Aish was transported to this game world. Classic Gamer, please calm down. I sincerely apologize for suddenly bringing you here. This world needs you to save it. But before Aide could explain further, Aish bounced on him. Before long, leaving Aide beaten and kneeling. Let me get this straight. You're the one who sent that message, and you're the director of this game. No, this world? Then why bring me here? Because this world has a true ending, a unique conclusion, that no one has ever achieved. I've reset this world countless times, trying to reach it, but I failed every time. So I began seeking help from others. As he spoke, the scenery around them began to change. I transformed this world into a game, and presented it to players from other worlds. Those players found possibilities I never anticipated, but none could reach the true ending. I feel the same way, and I didn't even know such a thing existed. While you didn't achieve the true ending, you accomplished something no one else could. Hell Iron Man mode. Today, you are the only player to clear it. Based on my judgment, you have the highest chance of success. That's why I brought you here. You mean kidnap me? And why did you have me possess this guy? That was a bug. I didn't anticipate things turning out this way. Anyway, if you can achieve the true ending, I'll grant you a reward. Classic gamer. I'll fulfill one of your wishes. If you're wondering about my identity, I'm akin to a god in this world, granting you a generous gift. When you return to your world is a simple matter for me. Anything? Even 10 billion in cash? A mere 10 billion? I can give you 100 billion if you'd like. Although Ade's words sounded good to be true, I indeed had desires and dreams, he thought, were impossible to achieve. What should I say? A dream you once gave up on, thinking it was unattainable. How do you know that? Am I right? It wasn't until this moment that I realized, because I thoroughly understood everything about you before bringing you here. I know what you regret, and I know you've been living with that regret. That dream of yours is still waiting for you. That dream ended a long time ago. If it still lingers in your heart, it means that dream hasn't failed yet. He's still there waiting for you. If you achieve this world's true ending, you can have everything you've ever wanted. But if you have such power, why don't you fix it yourself? It explained that he was heavily restricted. In this world, he was just an ordinary human. That's why he sought help from players in other worlds. However, if I failed, he would lose his life in this real world. This world is real, so remember, you only get one chance at life. Having cleared Hell Iron Man mode, I understood the risks involved. If you'd rather return to Earth, I can send you back now. When I first invited you here, I wanted to ask you this question, but due to what happened later, I never got the chance. Please make your choice. Will you challenge the true ending for the chance to fulfill your wish, or will you return to a safe and peaceful life on Earth? Classic gamer, I will respect your decision. Although I deeply wanted to return to Earth, the opportunity to achieve his dream was right in front of him. Having cleared Hell Iron Man mode, he was practically omniscient about this world, so he figured that even if he had to clear it again, it wouldn't be too difficult. Just a small challenge. Let me give it a try. I'll take this seriously and give it my best effort. So you better help me properly. And don't forget, if I reach the true ending, you must fulfill my wish. Of course, no problem at all. You can even treat me like a dog if it helps. Then before tomorrow morning, I want you to sell all the black spider mana stones. Make it happen. But it's already late evening. The markets are probably closed. I don't care. Just make it happen. No matter how you do it. I expect to see the funds before I handle tomorrow's affairs. But there are 388 black spider mana stones. Even at market value, that's a huge sum of money. What do you need that much money for? My team doesn't have any members yet, does it? Obviously, it's for summoning characters. The next morning, I brought Lucas to the mercenary guild, with the mana stones sold by Aid the previous night. By now had plenty of funds, so he decided to start the day with a simple 100 summons. When the two arrived at the guild's entrance, the sound of loud chatter could already be heard from inside. Lucas, seems like our luck is pretty good this morning. With that, I kicked the door open, as blinding sunlight streamed into the room. All the mercenaries turned to look at the entrance. Who's this brat? Are you tired of living? You damned idiots. How dare you glare at me? I'm your future employer. I think you're the one who doesn't want to live. The crowd quickly recognized. The man before them is none other than the renowned third prince. I ignored their gazes, carefully scanning the room for suitable recruits. In this world, character strength was ranked by rarity from N to SSR. The higher the rarity, the stronger the character. At that moment, I noticed someone radiating a purple glow. Your Highness, welcome to the Crossroad branch of the Continental Mercenary Guild. The man had spent the entire night gathering 10 carts of gold bars, just to perform a 100 draw at the guild. And now, as soon as he entered, he had already spotted an S or rank character. Mercenary, may I ask your name? I'm Jupiter. It's an honor to meet you. Your uniform is unfamiliar to me. Where is it from? It's the military uniform of the Bobolai Empire. It's from decades ago, so it's no surprise you don't recognize it. So you were once a soldier of the Empire? I served for 30 years, and was the captain of the Empire's Magic Corps Unit too. After retiring, I've been making a living as a mercenary. To continue serving the Empire even after retirement, truly the model soldier. Though I imagine it's not just for the Empire. Indeed, living off a retired soldier's pension alone would be quite difficult. Anyway, let's get back to the point. What brings you here, Your Highness? Why else would anyone come to the Mercenary Guild? To hire skilled mercenaries. Or perhaps, Your Highness, you've come to buy sacrificial pawns to serve as shields? Hearing this, Lucas instinctively reached for his sword, but I stopped him. The outcome of your war at the frontline base is already the talk of the town. Your so-called bravery in your first battle seems to have come at high cost. We may be people who work for money, but we're not fools digging our own graves. We refuse to follow an inexperienced commander and throw our lives away. You make a valid point, but aren't you all here to sell your lives anyway? Because selling your lives is the only option you have left. And now you tell me you're afraid of losing them. You claim you're not digging your own graves? Jupiter, your words are rather ironic. Though your record is impressive, wasn't your retirement a result of being caught scheming behind the army's back? How is your behavior any different from digging your own grave? From military corruption to smuggling with enemy nations, you were only expelled from the army because they caught you. And yet here you are, still wearing that uniform. Your shamelessness knows no bounds. Jupiter, the embodiment of corruption, the disgrace of the army, stripped of all honors. But as a combatant, your strength is undeniable. The lightning sorcery is hailed as a heroine among women. Although things didn't end perfectly, I'm still proud to have been an Imperial soldier. Please mind your words. I have a question for you. How much is that? 5 years' worth? What's your price? How much do I need to pay for you to become my hound? Though I may not look like much, I'm worth a lot. I currently earn 100,000 a year. 200,000. I'll pay you doubled 100,000. For a mercenary, that's a substantial sum. But for the third prince of the Empire, it's nothing. If I can buy an SR-ranked mercenary, I'll pay whatever it takes. I'll purchase your fear of death. I'll pay you twice your annual salary up front. Cowards unwilling to risk their lives should leave immediately. But for the true mercenaries who want to make a fortune, come to the open field west of Crossroad tonight. Despite being ridiculed as soon as he entered the guild, Aish remained unfazed, instead offering double wages to the mercenaries. If any true mercenaries want to make a fortune, come to the open field west of Crossroad tonight. After wrapping up at the guild, Aish visited the temple. There he received treatment from a saintess. The treatment was completed, but faint scars would remain. The one who healed him wasn't a ranked hero. The ultimate healer, Mara Holiday. In the future, if specific conditions are met, she can be invited to join the team. However, Aish's visit this time wasn't for that purpose. As we discussed earlier, I've gathered all the available priests with no current assignments. Since returning, Damien had also been stationed here under Aish's orders. Let's get going. There's a lot to do today, and it's going to be a busy one. That evening, the procession of coffins from the frontline base arrived at the western edge of Crossroad. Some of the fallen would rest here forever, while others would remain forever lost on the battlefield. Neatly aligned soldiers' remains, imperial flags draped over every coffin, and a massive choir singing hymns. Such a formal funeral was a rare sight in this city. What drew the most attention was the generous compensation for the deceased families. The sheer amount caused an uproar among the onlookers, and soon word of it spread throughout the citizens. Aish made no effort to embellish the event. This was a performance, a calculated and reasonable display. Aish wanted them to understand. Fighting on the front lines, here was to be seen as a noble sacrifice for humanity. Let me be blunt with you all. You may also sacrifice your lives on the front line one day. This cemetery will see new graves every week, and the choir's songs will ring out for each. But I must tell you this. Your sacrifice is more valuable than survival. The cost of these funerals and the compensation for the deceased is enormous. I've invested half the funds from selling the Mona stones into this alone, so death cannot become a cheap and common occurrence. I will do everything in my power to keep you alive, no matter what it takes. But I ask this of you. Do not fall easily. Survive and come back to collect your pay, instead of having me spend it on your funerals. With that, Aish's speech ended. He didn't care how the citizens perceived it. Some might see it as the excuse of an incompetent commander, or the reckless spending of a mad lord. But none of that mattered. Here, no one was more capable than him. Aish knew. It was time to tackle Scenario 1. That night, he and Lucas headed to the backyard of the Crossroad Manor. Without hesitation, Aish activated the portal. Scattered stones floated into the air, and in the next moment a magic-filled portal appeared before them. Your Highness, what is this? This is a gate leading to the dungeon beneath the lake. It's the path straight to the enemy's stronghold. One moment, Aish was holding a funeral for fallen warriors. The next, he was heading to the monster's base with Lucas. But Aish wasn't a traitor working for the monsters. It was simply that Empire Guardian was a hybrid gameplay game. When monsters attacked Crossroad, it was a tower defense scenario. When the enemy wasn't attacking, players explored dungeons to uncover the source of the monsters. Reflecting on his experiences so far, Ash felt that while things hadn't gone smoothly, this was still a fantastic start. With Damien, a top-tier character, Jupiter, an ESO-ranked area attacker, and plenty of money in hand, Ash had never had such a promising opening. He explained the mechanics to Lucas, and shared their next steps, reconnaissance of the next enemy wave. Your Highness, I understand completely, Lucas replied, but Aish had his doubts. Lucas, who had served him his whole life, wasn't questioning Aisha's sudden change in behavior, his detailed knowledge of the city, or his awareness of dungeons. Despite these suspicious elements, Lucas quietly followed him. Lucas, don't you have anything to ask me? Lucas's expression suddenly turned serious, and Aish worried he wouldn't be able to answer his question. I only act on your orders and have no questions. I am your sword and your shield. I will fight and protect as you command. Aish knew Lucas must have his doubts, but his words carried a deeper meaning. Even with questions, he trusted Aish implicitly. Very well. Lucas, are you ready to enter the Hell Cavern with me? As long as I'm with you, even the depths of hell cannot deter me. With that, Aish chose their sole destination, lakefront dock. With a dazzling flash of light, Aish and Lucas vanished from where they stood. The magical stones that had just been radiating power returned to their original state. When the two reappeared, they found themselves standing before a lake. The black waters stretched out before them, the very source of the monsters as of the monsters, a nightmare-inducing hell. In the southernmost dungeon of the world, suddenly, the lake began to change. The previously calm surface now revealed a pathway. Moments later, hands began emerging from the ground. The next wave of enemies had arrived. Ghost Knights. Upon seeing the scene before him, Ash froze in panic. He had anticipated all sorts of enemies in Scenario 1. Even if it had been dragons, he could have handled it. But among all the possible foes, the last thing he wanted to face were Ghost Knights. So these are the monsters we need to stop this time, he muttered. At that moment, a system notification appeared. 1,000 Ghost Knights, and several unknown raiders awaited them. Lucas noticed Aisha's pale face. Your Highness, are you all right? You don't look well. Are you feeling unwell? Aish didn't answer. He already knew what this meant. Crossroad. This time it's really the end. Even against mighty dragons, he wouldn't have flinched. But Ghost Knights, a massive legion of them, were another story entirely. In the game, whenever Aish encountered Ghost Knights in Scenario 1, he would immediately reset the game. Ghost Knights were monsters composed of armor, with their true forms being the spirits within. They were highly resistant to physical attacks. Although from the mid-game onward, it's easy to fend them off with various equipment. The current situation is, they barely have any equipment capable of stopping the Phantom Knights. It felt as though some malevolent force was toying with him, deliberately setting up obstacles. With only 3 days until Scenario 1 began, Aish knew what had to be done. Let's return, Lucas. We'll try every defensive measure we can think of. Back at the manor, Aish immediately summoned aid. How many troops do we have available? Only 526 soldiers remain. Most of our forces were lost during the tutorial battle, and we have no reserves left in the city. Then send messengers to other cities to request reinforcements. Offer double the standard weekly wage. And send another messenger to the Imperial Court. Inform them that the monsters are stirring, and request the maximum number of reinforcements. Are you sure about this, Lord Aish? If you request Imperial assistance now, it may lead to a disastrous scenario later. That's a problem for later. Right now, survival comes first. Also, summon all the city's craftsmen and alchemists. But if we do that, the processing of mana stones will come to a halt. The city is on the brink of collapse. Is processing mana stones more important than survival? Suspend the processing and bring them all here. Aish realized this world's difficulty was likely higher than anything he'd faced before, though he hadn't finalized his plan. Time was running out. In games, the harder the challenge, the more it demanded creative strategies. So Aish decided to take a gamble. He chose to switch his class to Commander. The system immediately congratulated him. But the next moment, Aish felt something was wrong. His growth rate dropped by 50. Not only that, his equipment proficiency also decreased by 50. Aish couldn't believe his eyes. However, the series of pop-ups that followed calmed him down. As a commander, he now granted buffs to all allied troops. Just by being present on the battlefield, he could enhance both their offensive and defensive capabilities. In this way, Aish could understand why the negative effects occurred. Moreover, the commander class had a unique energy system, providing additional boosts based on the team composition. For a former gamer like Aish, this was the ideal class. But not everything went smoothly. What's going on here? Aish demanded. No one responded to your recruitment order, so I had to urgently bring all the key personnel here, Aide replied. The reward for clearing the hardest mode of the game turned out to be a class with negative effects, but Aish was surprisingly thrilled to have acquired it. The class allowed him to provide different boosts, depending on team composition. Even if Aish did nothing but stand on the battlefield, his presence alone would enhance the abilities of all allied forces. However, Aish hadn't expected A to stir up trouble yet again. It turned out that Aish's recruitment notice had failed to summon the city's craftsmen, so Aide in his own way invited them instead. You brat, do you only know how to kidnap people when summoning them? Why did you suddenly bring me here? If the processing work goes awry because of this, will you take responsibility? Even as a royal, you can't just do whatever you like. Faced with the situation, Aish could only apologize in his own way. You lot, are you looking for a beating? How dare you shout at me in my presence? Do you even know who I am? I'm a prince of this kingdom and the lord of this city. When I summon you, you should crawl here if necessary. How dare you offend me? Are you all tired of living? Apologies, your highness. This is our first time serving a royal lord. Hearing Aish's words, the craftsmen were stunned. I'll sell you 20 of the recovered mana stones at cost price. Having a direct source of mana stones should be beneficial for you, right? But in return, whenever I give an order, you must prioritize producing military supplies. Of course, I'll pay for everything in full. What do you think? This sounds like a good deal, doesn't it? Ash's plan was simple: use money and benefits to win them over. After all, his only real resource at the moment was money. Of course, we'll work with you, Lord Aish. When do we start? What do you need us to do? Aish was relieved. Money truly was the most valuable thing in this world. After settling matters with the craftsmen, Aish summoned the city's heroes. You've probably heard from Lucas by now. A legion of 1,000 ghost knights is advancing toward Crossroad. They'll arrive in about 2 days. Aside from Lucas, everyone was shocked. Your Highness, what are your orders? Do your best in your assigned roles. Now let me give each of you your tasks. Lucas, you'll serve as the commander of the troops. The soldiers are in disarray, and you need to have them ready within 2 days. Your Highness, I'm sorry, Lily, but I need your help right now. Don't worry, you won't be on the front lines. Through their time together, Aisha decided Lily would work in the city for the rest of her life. Your Highness, may I ask one question? If you want me to put in more effort, shouldn't you raise my salary? Jupiter's personality revealed itself. Her trait was goal maniac. She was an unabashed money grubber. She would serve as the captain of the assault team in this battle. Damien, take this. I prepared it especially for you. Due to Damien's farsight ability, he was assigned the role of sniper. Aisha assigned everyone their respective tasks. Though Aish worried about this choice dice, as sniping wasn't Damien's specialty, there wasn't much choice given the situation. By the way, Damien, where are your glasses? I wore them to intentionally weaken my eyesight, but now that my eyes are useful, I stopped wearing them. Seeing that no one panicked of the enemy, Aish felt a sense of relief. After the strategy meeting, Aish went to the southern wall of Crossroad. The craftsmen put down their work upon seeing him. How's the state of the walls? Not great. They've fallen into disrepair over the years. Why hasn't this fortress city maintained its walls? Isn't that the most basic responsibility? That's because of budget cuts. The reduced frequency of monster attacks meant fewer mana stones were being harvested, so the previous lore cut funding. Fortress walls are meant to stop monsters, aren't they? Use as much material and budget as necessary. Reinforce and repair them to an exaggerated extent. Hurry up and start. The monsters are already advancing on the city. Leaving the walls, I headed to the lumberyard. You've probably heard the news. What you need to do over the next 2 days is build walls. About this high will do just enough to block the way. Apologies, Your Highness, but monsters can easily smash through wooden walls. I don't need sturdy walls to stop the monsters. Just follow my instructions and build simple wooden walls. Don't worry, they'll serve an important purpose, so stop complaining and get to work. Over the next 2 days, everything proceeded in an orderly manner. Time flew by and soon, only 30 minutes remained before the scenario began. Scouts closely monitored the woods outside the city. Suddenly, something stirred in the forest. They're here. The monsters have appeared. In an instant, tension gripped the entire fortress. Everyone, don't be afraid. I'll be fighting alongside you on the front lines. These creatures are nothing more than cannon fodder. They're numerous but weak. We are the strongest army in the Southern Empire. The defenses are well prepared, and our equipment is in excellent condition. We will drive the enemy back. So don't worry. Follow my orders and fight. If we do that, we'll be raising our glasses to celebrate victory tonight. Despite his encouraging words, Aish knew the truth. The Ghost Knight Legion was one of the toughest early-game enemies. The city's defenders, mostly low-level wandering mercenaries, due to the urgency of time, were far from adequately prepared. But this wasn't something he could share with them. Aish silently carried the burden in his heart, hoping Jupiter would live up to her potential in this battle. All right, little ones, it's our turn to step in. All monsters operated on the same principle. Eliminate the enemies before them. In the absence of obstacles, they moved along the shortest path to attack humans. This made their movements easily predictable. As a result, they could easily fall into a trap. Unfortunately, due to time constraints, the traps couldn't be dug too deep. To prepare for the most challenging monster in Scene 1, I should set up traps around the area in advance. Although the traps weren't deep enough, they would suffice for now. Just show me there. Now's your time. You cursed monsters. Let this old lady make a fortune off you. With a shout, Jupiter activated Purification Zone. Though effective, the ghost knights were too numerous, and distributed damage wasn't enough to finish them off. You dare challenge me? Disrespectful brats. The monsters hit by Purification Zone began to spark with faint lightning, while the electricity around Jupiter turned a deeper blue. All right, kiddos. Tonight's dinner is fried armor. Crush them all? With a powerful motion, Jupiter slammed her hand downward. Countless bolts of lightning responded to her fury, striking the battlefield. The display reinvigorated the morale of the soldiers on the walls. Jupiter's tactic was clear. First, she marked the monsters with her first skill, then followed up with an unavoidable attack from her second skill. Her performance in the battle was nothing short of dazzling. But despite the heavy losses inflicted on the enemy, the sheer number of ghost knights over 1,000 meant they continued to pour toward the city. Jupiter, don't get caught up in the fight. Retreat immediately. Hearing Aisha's order, Jupiter led the assault team in a tactical withdrawal. The swarm of ghost knights, undeterred by death, pressed forward without hesitation, even as their comrades fell. All right, kiddos, run faster. Don't look back, just keep running. They had successfully drawn the monsters' attention. Prepare to execute the plan. Jupiter, just move as I instructed. The ghost knights were closing in on the assault team members, their speed relentless. All Aish could do was silently pray for their safety. Thankfully, the team managed to retreat behind the wooden walls. So far, everything was proceeding according to Aisha's plan. Now it was time for the wooden walls to serve their purpose. The ghost knights lacked the ability to think independently. Driven purely by instinct, they simply pursued the humans ahead of them. This meant they wouldn't destroy the wooden walls. As the massive horde funneled into the narrow gaps, their formation was forced to shrink in width. I know you've been waiting for this moment. Imperial soldiers, from now on don't hold back. Fire all the cannonballs. In an instant, the cannons on the walls roared to life. The ghost knights, crowded together, had no time to react. They could only watch as the cannonballs closed in, before being completely consumed by the explosions. This was the very foundation of tower defense strategy, forcing enemy units into bottlenecks to maximize firepower. Fire all the cannonballs. Keep the barrage constant. The blazing inferno ahead brought a sense of relief to the defenders. At this rate, we should be able to win. The monsters won't get through there. No, we can't be sure just yet. Suddenly, among the ghost knights appeared shield-bearing monsters. They advanced to the front, absorbing the brunt of the cannon fire. Typical attacks won't work against them. What a tough bunch. The relentless barrage ravaged the battlefield, but the arrival of the shield-bearers shattered the illusion of an easy victory. Fortunately, I had anticipated this. Lily, it's your turn to activate it now. Yes, your highness. Lily activated the gravitational artifact. At her signal, the alchemist sprang into action, and a terrifying gravity field engulfed the shield-bearers, slowing their movements significantly. Lucas. Yes, your highness. Ballista unit. Prepare to fire. The soldiers on the walls swiftly aimed their ballista at the battlefield. Target their chest cores. Ballista E. Fire. On Aisha's command, bolts shot out with immense force. The bolts pierced through the shields effortlessly, destroying the ghost knight's cores. This marked the second phase of Aisha's strategy. Concentrated artillery fire to weaken the horde, followed by the finishing blow with artifacts and ballista E. So far, everything seemed to be going smoothly. Your highness, some of the monsters are bypassing the walls. The overcrowding had pushed some of the ghost knights out of the planned route. Jupiter, take charge of the ghost knights on the right flank. Use hit and run tactics to hold them back. Following your command, your highness. With her orders, Jupiter led the assault team to the right side of the wooden wall. The displaced monsters charged straight at them. You damn monsters. Haven't I told you to respect your elders? With Jupiter holding the right flank, Aish could finally focus on the left. Damien, it's your turn. Take out the ones coming from the left. Don't let them near the walls. Despite his initial fear, Damien's gaze sharpened as he aimed at the enemy. Without hesitation, he pulled the trigger. The arrow shot out at an uncanny angle, piercing straight through the core of a ghost knight. Though Ash knew Damien's farsight ability was borderline cheating, he couldn't help but marvel at how Damien could snipe cores with such precision using a simple bow. With cannons, ballista E, and artifacts on the front, Jupiter guarding the right, and Damien dominating the left, the tide of battle was turning in their favor. The enemy's losses had already reached 500. At this pace, victory seemed assured. But just then, Aish noticed something strange on the battlefield. It was a sight he had never encountered in the game. Aish suddenly remembered that when the enemy losses reached 500, the boss of the Phantom Knight Legion will appear. So, the creature in the air is the Death Knight. These creatures' bizarre strength lies here. While the Legion itself is already formidable, once they're pushed back, a boss monster will emerge, just like in the second phase. But now, since the Phantom Knights haven't been repelled, the Death Knight won't take any action. It will just float idly in the air. But Aish forgot one thing. This isn't a game, it's reality. The sudden appearance of the massive shadow alone was enough to throw the soldiers into panic. Even though the Phantom Knight Legion hadn't been completely repelled, the Death Knight as the boss still appeared. Even though it merely floated motionless in the air, the human soldiers were terrified and lost their composure. And this was the one flaw in Aish's battle plan. The enormous alien-like silhouette instilled terror, reducing frontline firepower drastically. The effect wasn't limited to humans. Even animals were unsettled by the presence of the Wraith Knight. This was an unexpected complication for everyone. As the captain of the assault team, Jupiter was thrown to the ground by her panicked horse. Not far away, Ghost Knights loomed ready to strike. If Jupiter fell, the entire defensive line would collapse. The monsters were closing in, intent on eliminating the humans before them. At the critical moment, members of the assault team stepped up to protect her. But Aish knew all too well that their strength was nothing compared to the monsters. Your Highness, we need to use the cannons and fire grid to support Jupiter's team. No. If the front line collapses, even more of them will spill through. The sudden appearance of the Death Knight had caused Aish's plan to unravel. Cannon and ballista fire had stopped. The once impenetrable fire grid was now riddled with gaps. Repair the fire grid immediately. The soldiers are all paralyzed with fear. All Aish could do was silently hope that Jupiter could hold on a little longer. Meanwhile, Jupiter finally regained consciousness. The searing pain coursing through her body reminded her she was still alive. Lady Jupiter, you're awake at last. Time is short. Lady Jupiter, we need you. What's going on? The battlefield's in utter chaos. Looks like this isn't the time to lie down and rest. Reinforcements on their way. We just need to hold out until they arrive. But before the man could finish speaking, the Ghost Knight charged toward Jupiter. The man swung his flail, striking the monster and sending it stumbling back. Even though the creature's helmet was dented, it didn't fall. You survived my hammer strike? Damn rat. Watch your back. Unfortunately, the man was impaled by a spear before he could react. He could have sworn the monster behind him had been dealt with. But it was too late to do anything now. It was over. You damn monsters. Jupiter roared. Just as she was about to unleash her magic, she felt something was off. Perhaps it was due to her injuries. Her magic was uncontrollable. For a mage, losing control of their magic meant all they could do was watch their allies fall one by one. Under such circumstances, the morale of the mercenaries crumbled. Without hesitation, one of the men dropped his shield and fled. But he forgot the cardinal rule of the battlefield: never turn your back on the enemy. The fragile defensive line maintained by the assault team collapsed entirely. Jupiter could smell the Ghost Knight before her. The stench of rust and stagnant water mixed together. A scent of drowning and decay. You should have stayed in the lake where you belong. Why must you make it so hard for me, an old lady, to earn my salary? In a fit of rage, Jupiter mustered her remaining strength and cast her magic. With a single strike, she obliterated the monster in front of her. But she knew all too well, her spell had barely a quarter of its usual power. She was done for. One by one, the assault team fell. And as a mage unable to control her magic, Jupiter could no longer fight like she once had. Faced with the overwhelming horde of monsters, Jupiter knew her time had come. You should go, she said to the young mercenary at her side. Better to save one than lose everyone. I'll use my magic to buy you some time. Run, kid, run while you can. But how can I leave? This is the best place to be, by your side. Grandma, you're a mage after all. Mercenary survival rule 2. Always stay close to your side's mages. It's safer to assist you here than to try escaping without a horse. If we work together, we can survive. Though his words seemed naive, the young mercenary's tactics were sound. He didn't aim to defeat the Ghost Knights but kept them at bay by thrusting his spear to maintain distance. No matter what, I'll hold them off. Please prepare your next spell. Damien, stationed on the walls, was doing his best to assist them. But it still wasn't enough to stop the advancing horde. Just as Jupiter finally gathered enough magic for a lightning strike, the young mercenary was pierced by multiple spears from the monsters. You damn creatures! Jupiter roared, unleashing her lightning to vent her fury. But it was too late. If only she had gathered her magic a few seconds faster, perhaps she could have saved the boy. At her age, Jupiter had long stopped keeping track of every sacrifice. Still, this one stung. Hey kid, she called out. Do you remember Mercenary Survival Rule 1? Hearing her voice, the boy struggled to turn his head. Never take a job that offers too much pay for no reason. I'm sorry. Mom? I'm sorry. I shouldn't have. Kid, your survival rules were all wrong. That's no way to succeed as a mercenary. If you want to get rich and famous, you should take high-paying jobs that aren't dangerous. And for heaven's sake, stay as far away from mages as possible. They'll steal all the glory. But the most important rule of all, if you want to live, don't become a mercenary in the first place. Jupiter sighed, her voice heavy with exhaustion. I don't even have the magic left to light a cigarette. I thought I'd retire rich with my high salary, but it's all over now. Seems I'm just an unfit mercenary after all. 3 minutes earlier, I shorted Lucas to abandon the rescue. In this situation, stabilizing morale is the only way to hold the line. You fools, pull yourselves together. Don't cower just because that monster is huge. His words were like a shot of adrenaline, revitalizing the soldiers. I realized his skills must have taken effect. Lucas, I called out. I'll handle the morale and fix the fire grid. You're to head out through the gates and rescue Jupiter's team. I knew. Sending Lucas out alone was reckless. But Lucas didn't hesitate. He charged into the danger without a second thought. Everyone, stay sharp and focused. Lucas plunged into the monster horde outside the gates, determined to bring back the assault team. What he didn't know was that the team was already gone, leaving only Jupiter alive, and she had resigned herself to her fate. Lady Jupiter, don't move, Lucas shouted. Before she could respond, Lucas swiftly dispatched the surrounding monsters, his arrival rekindling her hope of survival. If only Lucas had arrived a moment sooner. Perhaps. But he said nothing. Instead, he hoisted Jupiter onto his horse and spurred it forward. The monsters, realizing their prey was escaping, hurled their weapons. Spears flew through the air, aiming to stop the pair from fleeing. With a casual slash, Lucas neutralized the immediate threat. The young knight's effortless skill left Jupiter in awe. You're quite remarkable, young knight. Perhaps one day you should meet my granddaughter. She's a lovely girl. If you still have the energy to joke, then please focus on recovering your strength so you can use your magic. We've still got plenty of monsters left. Even so, thank you for saving me. You don't need to thank me. I was merely following His Highness's orders. But even Lucas felt a pang of guilt. If only his horse had been a little faster. Still, regrets could wait until after the monsters were dealt with. It's been ages since I've been on a battlefield, and even longer since I've been this angry. Thanks to Aisha's unyielding commander's skill, the execution line had been repaired, and Jupiter had returned safely. It seemed like everything was moving in a positive direction. But Aisha couldn't shake the weight of his losses. In a single moment he had lost 4 valuable hero units. He realized he had relied too much on his gaming knowledge. This was no game, it was a real world. So he had to take more factors into account, where variables like burning wooden walls from cannon fire mattered. The monsters had broken through the wooden walls and were advancing. Now the battle was reduced to a defense atop the city walls. Aisha's original plan was to use firepower to clear this scenario. At least for now. The battlefield was still under his control. Your Highness, I've brought Lady Jupiter back, Lucas reported. But Lucas didn't particularly like the old mage. He knew it was wise to maintain good relations with her. I'm glad you made it back alive. Your Highness, I'm ashamed to face you. I've made mistakes. And young lives were lost because of me. I'm deeply sorry. This isn't your fault. No one could have anticipated a monster appearing in the sky, nor the horses panicking and fleeing. No, it is my fault. At my age, if I'm still on the battlefield, I should know how to handle such situations. So, I must atone for my mistakes. I'll kill that creature myself. You need to focus on recovering first, because I'll need your strength soon. Meanwhile, the monsters continued to flood toward the walls. Cannons still rained fire upon them, but I gave a surprising order. Cease fire. There's no point in continuing this bombardment, despite the monsters' relentless advance. But the commander ordered to cease fire. Aisha was not giving up. He was conserving firepower for the strongest enemies yet to come. Damien, take a break as well. You'll need your energy for the stronger monsters ahead. Use this time to recover. The monsters reached the walls, climbing up with alarming speed. Though the walls hadn't been breached, the creatures swarmed upward like a tide. Prepare for melee combat. Hearing the command, The soldiers grabbed their weapons and lined up at the edge of the walls. From now on, this would be a battle of bodies, a fight to stop the monsters with sheer physical force. This was war in its truest form. As the monsters closed in, the soldiers' nerves were stretched to their limits. They couldn't strike yet. They had to wait for the perfect moment. A moment to deal a decisive blow. Now, push them back, Aish commanded. The soldiers quickly lifted barrels. They had prepared and tipped them over the edge. The barrels were filled with construction debris left over from wall repairs. Just in case, Aish had ordered these makeshift weapons to be placed along the walls. Many monsters shattered upon hitting the ground. However, others rose more unharmed by the impact. Even after suffering such a heavy blow, the monsters resumed their relentless climb. Lances ready. Hold them off as best you can. Aish assigned Jupiter as a key member of the team. With 2 mages in the group now, the team's magic attack power increased by 20. Unfortunately, the monsters had already reached the walls. Now the soldiers had to fight tooth and nail in close combat. As the creatures roared in front of them, Aish doubted whether his soldiers could stand their ground. Fighting monsters required more than weapons. It demanded overcoming the primal fear in one's heart. At that moment, a golden light flashed across the city walls. I'll take them out. You all just focus on holding your positions. Lucas's encouraging words immediately lifted the spirits of the soldiers. Seeing this, Aish let out a sigh of relief. He knew that without overcoming fear, only death awaited them. Lily, activate the next artifact. Yes, Your Highness. Activating the highest artifact now. Then, the artifact granted all allied units a 5-speed boost for 5 minutes. Combined with Aish's commander buffs, human soldiers finally had a fighting chance in melee combat against the monsters. However, Aish was well aware of the gap in strength between the two sides. Ordinary soldiers alone could never hope to match the monsters. The real turning point would rely on the heroes, with their unique skills and abilities. Lucas's strike of will skill increased in power. With each enemy he defeated, a single ability allowed him to hold half of the fortress walls on his own. But even for someone like Lucas, it was impossible to defend the entire wall. As time ticked by, the number of wounded soldiers steadily grew. In contrast, even injured Ghostmates continued fighting, with undiminished ferocity. Damien, eager to join the fray, was held back by Aish. Save your strength, you'll need it to face the Death Knight. We must minimize the soldiers' casualties. As Aish pondered his next move, a dim firelight illuminated the walls. The monsters had climbed onto the walls, forcing the soldiers into hand-to-hand combat. Lucas, the SSR-ranked hero, continued to hold his ground, defending half the wall. But as time went on, the number of wounded soldiers kept rising, and Aish was running out of options. Suddenly, amidst the chaos, the firelight cast a reassuring glow on the walls. There, a familiar figure in a wheelchair caught everyone's attention. Lily, you can still use magic, right? Aish asked. Are you serious? I'm a mage after all. But the limitations of a fire mage's mana pool were evident in Lily's fatigued state. Lily, I know you can do this. Please, just let me retire. Besides, my magic power is almost depleted. Just one more time. I believe you can do it. Thanks to the stacked buffs, Lily's magic damage had increased significantly. Aish pushed her around the walls in her wheelchair, ensuring she could strike every critical point. Through a combination of soldiers holding the line with their bodies, Lucas slashing down enemies with his sword, and Lily's relentless bursts of fire, the Ghost Knights were finally defeated. The exhausted soldiers could hardly believe their victory. When its Enkin cheers erupted across the walls, but Aish knew better. The fight was far from over. Although he wanted to let everyone rest for a while, they were about to face the Death Knight. The remains of the Phantom Knights all flew into the air. They transformed into the body of the Death Knight. Soon, an enormous monster appeared before everyone. Just by leaping to the ground, he could cause a massive tremor. The soldiers were paralyzed with fear. Aish hadn't expected the Death Knight to be this terrifying in reality. It was an ordinary boss in the game, one Aish had faced countless times. But now, standing before the real thing, Aish felt fear gripping his very core. His body trembled involuntarily, but he forced the fear down. He knew escape was not an option. Open fire. Don't hold back. He set every last cannonball. A barrage of firepower engulfed the Death Knight. Yet the overwhelming force only managed to push it back half a step. The Death Knight continued its advance toward the fortress. Lily, activate the third artifact now. Without hesitation, Lily unleashed the mana amplifier, doubling the mana reserves of a single user. The recipient of this boost was none other than Jupiter. Alright, this feels like I'm back at my peak. Jupiter, give it your all. Focus your fire on the enemy's chest plate. But your highness, be careful to avoid the lightning. If you get shocked, I won't be held responsible. With a single strike, Jupiter's attack pierced straight through the Death Knight's armor. The monster's core was now fully exposed to everyone. Damien, aim for the core now, Ash commanded. Damien activated his Eagle Eye skill immediately, firing his bolt directly at the Wraith Knight's core. Without fail the bolt hit its target, shattering the core into pieces before everyone's eyes. But just as Ash thought it was all over, the Death Knight raised its sword toward the fortress. How was it still moving? The bolt pierced its core. The Death Knight's massive blade began its descent toward the fortress walls. Once this sword falls, the entire fortress wall will be utterly destroyed. Jupiter, one more strike. In this stormy weather, you dare lift a weapon over your head? You fool. Do you wish to be struck by lightning? Electricity crackled across the Death Knight's form. A blinding blue bolt of lightning descended upon the creature, engulfing it completely in a storm of light. Even as the Death Knight was consumed by the lightning, its sword continued its deadly descent toward the walls. Everyone, move! Get out of the shadow. I shield. Your Highness, you must retreat as well. The sword struck the walls with a deafening crash, its sheer for stopping nearby soldiers. Thanks to Lucas's timely intervention, Ash was unharmed, and the hero units escaped unscathed. However, the Death Knight's massive blade remained embedded in the walls. The good news was that the Death Knight, with its final attack, had expended its last ounce of life. The battle was finally won. At that moment, the Death Knight's remains underwent another transformation. Lucas moved to shield Daesh, but Ash stopped him. It's just its final death throes. This attack won't harm anyone physically, but anyone caught in it might suffer mental collapse. This is human territory. Leave now, monster. Ash bellowed. The Death Knight's last attack dissolved into golden light scattering into the wind. The giant monster, the ghosts, they're all gone. It was His Highness who defeated them all. Is it truly over? As the Death Knight vanished, dawn broke through the thick clouds. The Imperial banner still flew high over Crossroad. We've beaten the monsters. We've won. We're alive. In the future, we will keep winning. We will keep surviving. The terror slowly faded from the soldiers' eyes, replaced by the joy of victory. At that moment, Ash was no longer the infamous Third Prince. He was a capable commander, a true lord of the people. Little did they know, this was merely the first scenario. That evening, Crossroad returned to its usual peace, but the city's central plaza was alive with light and celebration. We drove back those armored monsters. Raise your glasses to celebrate our victory. Cheers. Drink to your heart's content tonight. My treat. Ash's speech concluded, and the festivities began. After a grueling day of battle, the people reveled in music, enjoying a brief moment of respite. Soldiers and residents alike drank cup after cup, while the enticing aroma of food wafted from the pots, and sizzling steaks filled the air. Life felt almost perfect. Yet Ash sat alone away from the crowd, watching the joyful faces of the people, brought a rare sense of satisfaction to his heart. Your Highness, are you all right? You haven't eaten all day. Please have something.